Hey guys, what's going on today? And thank you for joining us for the 1004 show. We're here with Lindsey Germono of Germono Advertising. How's it going, Lindsey?
Hey, it's going well. How are you, Zach?
Doing very well. Thank you for
Happy
being
Friday, TGIF.
happy Friday. I learned a new one. It was about basically, thank God it's Thursday or something like that. It was really interesting. I saw this sign at a bar next door to our office, and it said SHIT, so happy it's Thursday. And it's broken down like that. It's one of those bring people in. I thought that was
Nice.
clever. So on Thursdays, you can do that maybe. So you got your start in business kind of by accident. Tell us a little bit about the journey of how Germono got its start.
Sure. So, yeah, it was not intentional. I think with a lot of folks who start business, there's a situation that comes up, and whether they are disappointed in their job, they feel like they can do something better, or in my case, we are military, and I knew that I was going to be coming up for a reassignment, and that could have been, it was very likely that it was going to be out of the area. So that was kind of all of that combined was my case. I was working in advertising and marketing for broadcast, and I loved what I was doing. I love marketing and advertising in general. I can't have a conversation without it coming in. And then I knew there was an opportunity that came up with me being able to create my own business and then potentially taking that wherever we go.
So, with that being said, though, do you think that's kind of the new evolution of people, that they're building a more 21st century business that's not so tied to a specific area where you have to have a storefront, you have to have an office? I just read an article about you, and it said that 95% of the work that I can be doing anywhere. And so, was that in your mind that, hey, while I might have a location where I want to be, and I might have those clients there, I don't necessarily have to travel to them. I can use, technology like a Skype or a Facebook or even just your phone to communicate with those people. Was that in your mind that you wanted to build a business that you could leverage kind of 21st century ways?
Yeah, so initially I knew it was going to have a combination of either brick and mortar and remote, or a percentage of it needed to be able to move with me. But so here's the interesting thing, and I'm going to generalize here. I think that there's a certain age group and up that feel like when you create a business, you have to have a storefront. And so then there's the other age group and down that feels as if, why do I have to have a storefront? Why can't I do it like this? Co-sharing space is a really great idea. So you're not paying $2,000 for a lease when you could pay a fraction of that, and you really only need a cubicle or a small 100 square foot room. So I think it's where we're going, and I'm really excited because as I work with businesses and they see that I operate, I have a combination. So our address, we have an office. It's on Waterside Drive, and it's a virtual office space, meaning it can float. So I just basically book whatever hours I need. That's where all my phone calls go, and it's really great for my situation. But I also do about 85% of my work either in person, and in person includes like what we're doing now, Skyping face to face. This is in person, and we have a computer in front of us, but I mean, I can see your movements and see your facial expressions and stuff. And then the rest I can do, I know, and then the rest I can do as long as I've got the internet, really. And it takes a lot of control, you have to get up at 7 o'clock or whatever that time frame is. Don't lay around in bed. Don't have the TV on. Tell your friends and family they can't pop up at your house at 11 o'clock in the morning.
How do people get over this? So I 100% agree with you, where there is a disconnect of people saying, well, you don't have this, so you must not be this. Right. So you don't have a retail stop or store. You don't have an office, so therefore you can't be successful. You can't have big clients. You can't be anything. Yeah. But where's the disconnect, and what will get those that older generation to understand that actually we're being more efficient with our time, so we can give you better rates, that we're not in the car wasting time, and that's where I think people, they use technologies all the time, right? My mom and I can talk, we can get on the phone and FaceTime, or my siblings, and we do all those things. But when it comes to business, they don't relate the same scenario, and they think that you're less of a business because of that. So what's the disconnect, and how do you kind of get over that so that people don't worry?
I don't know. And I hate to sound unintelligent here, but I think it goes to the type of person that you're programmed to be. So, hard work is hard work. It doesn't matter who you are.
Sure.
If you're a born hustler, you know that you just have that ingrained in you. And I think that there's a percentage of that, because you have to get over that obstacle of now I will say, when people see our address, 999 Waterside Drive, and then they go, oh, you must be, in downtown Norfolk, there is that, oh, that's really neat. And that's great, but that's only a certain percentage of reactions. The rest is, they don't even know where Waterside Drive is, because we do business all over the country, so they don't know what Hampton Roads is like. So I don't know. I think as businesses entertain that idea of becoming more virtual or remote, understanding that there are programs available that you can use, like Slack or Basecamp, whatever that is, and that's an inner office kind of CRM type of system. Sure. You can still have a work phone number and all that. And then I think, so the other thing that we've actually come across in my business with my employees is how to create a team still, because one of the advantages of having an office is being able to gather next to the water cooler or, in the break room and have those conversations with each other. And that's building relationships with your coworkers and contributing to the culture of your business. So what we do is this type of stuff. So every week we have a staff meeting where it very much looks like the Brady Bunch, where everybody's kind of, logged in from wherever they are. And that's how we can share and kind of develop that.
What tool do you use for that?
We use Zoom.
Okay.
Which is just like Skype, so whichever one you're comfortable. I started using Zoom. I liked Zoom because the connectivity issues did not occur as often as they did as I was finding in Skype.
Can you record the conversations the same way?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
I know plenty of people who use Zoom as well. One thing to even go deeper into this is, I actually learned this from Gary Oster. I don't know if you had him as a professor at Regent, but he said for the first time ever, we have 5 generations in the workforce. So you have plenty of people that are millennials that want that open concept, but then you also have the baby boomers who want that I've busted my tail to get to where I am office.
Yep.
Right? And so to figure out how to get those people to work together can be difficult.
I'd love to. Actually, let's kick that around for a second. So I was talking to somebody recently about that, and I was like, let's just generalize here. The baby boomers are threatened by the millennials because the millennials are coming in with their fancy ideas and, stealing their jobs. And then the millennials are threatened by the baby boomers because the baby boomers, they started working, they created the sales cold call, right? They would knock on doors and, sell vacuum cleaners or whatever the heck it was, knives, I don't care. So the disconnect here, and what I think we try to encourage with any type of generation difference like that, is pairing people up together. So you have like a mentorship relationship, and so each can learn from each other. Because I'll tell you that some of my best leaders have been people who were baby boomers, who I could glean from and go, oh my God, you picked up the phone and called that person? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Weren't you nervous? And they're like, worst is going to happen is you're going to say no. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll email them. I'll connect with them on LinkedIn. Then I'll follow their Facebook page. And I do all this stuff. And then, it's wasteful time. So if you can match up with somebody, if you can match a millennial with somebody in your team that's a little bit older generation, then they can learn from each other and both benefit. So it's a two-way street.
I find that we have a lot of clients or customers or friends or followers that actually are really dramatically different in the spectrum of this. And so younger people, older people, and everything in between. And what I find is that the respect is there, though, right? And so it's, wow, you did something where you didn't have any easy way to do that. Right. Where you had to literally knock on doors And what I find interesting is I feel like, as with everything, like even with like bell bombs coming back, and everything comes full cycle. So
Right.
things that hadn't been working for a long time are now becoming a popular thing again. A great example is I think not a lot of people do handwritten letters to people afterwards. And I think that's starting to come back in a way where people are like, oh, that personal touch
Hmm.
is so much more than just sending maybe a text, which is super easy, saying, hey, thanks for this today. Instead, it's, sending a card, which takes a lot more time. You don't get that immediate answer, but people are doing. Actually, so I send out a decent amount of cards.
Yeah, I've gotten cards from you.
Perfect.
Love it.
Here's what I always wonder. What is the protocol of follow-up once you receive that? Because some people respond back and call or email and say, hey, I got that, thanks. Some people don't. And then you're like, well, did it get there? Did it not? Like, you have read receipts on your text messages. You can
Right.
There's email tracking, so people do. Snail mail, you have no idea. So do you know what the protocol is for that? Is there one?
I think it depends on the type of meeting that you've had. If it was just a thank you for your time and there's no follow up after, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
I've reached out and it's weird. I've thanked people for thanking me if I know that we're continuing a relationship. And this is really cool. So I interviewed somebody when we were first hiring last year, and she had my cell phone number because my cell phone number is on everything I do. Who cares? I don't. Yeah, it's my cell phone. I don't care. But she didn't send a handwritten note to my office. She actually sent a picture to my. She texted me a picture to my phone with her photograph, like her headshot, and then it said, "Thank you for your time. It was so nice meeting you." And I thought that was super creative because we don't always know mailing address for some businesses if it's just we don't know that person's address. So I've used that a couple times where I've gone into Canva, which is a free platform to make graphics, put my picture, a little sidebar, typed out what I wanted to say, saved it, and then texted that to the person I met with. And it's a really cool kind of dynamic if you don't have their address. Maybe you met them at a networking event or something like that, or you just have their cell phone number. But I really love that, and I've gotten a lot of really cool feedback from there. Like, that's super creative. And
That's clever. Do people come back and say, oh, I don't want you texting me?
no,
Cool.
and I've never had that happen.
One thing that I think is coming back, or at least that we're seeing, is that a lot of people are talking about get someone's email, get them through some drip campaign, and then you can follow up with them and keep them in. What we find, though, is because it's almost when techniques are becoming the everyday thing, you're too late. So now
Yeah.
we have to say, what can we be doing? What information can we be collecting that isn't what everyone else is doing, right? And so we're actually trying to get phone calls with people now. We're trying to schedule actual calls with people and learn about them so that we're going kind of backwards, right? We're going back
Right.
to a time where people don't like to talk, but we find that if we can have a conversation with them, there's no misleading text that they thought meant one thing or couldn't answer that question quick enough, or some notification went off so they didn't get what they wanted. So I find that we're actually backtracking a lot of old school ways to try and get attention. Do you see anything like that you're working with people?
Yeah. So I actually drafted a blog, and I think I'll be publishing it in February about how much percentage of business I do online, like through social media. So particularly, well, obviously a lot in LinkedIn because that's a professional platform. But in Facebook and Instagram, I receive messages from people who see my activity. And of course, I'm the owner of Germono Advertising Company, and they see that in my profile. And they'll ask me to set up a meeting. So I get Facebook inbox messages from potential clients booking meetings with me. And I don't mind. That's fine. Great. Yeah. Let's meet. And then same thing with Instagram. So there's a food truck in this market that I am dying to try. I've never been to one of the locations where they are. And so I did an Instagram live, and I saw that they were watching, and I was like, holy crap, I need to come and see you guys.
What food truck?
It's asada.
Carnage asada.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were like engaging back with me, and I was like, I'm coming to see you guys, I promise. So I thought that that was a really cool kind of dynamic in the way of business. So to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I'm on now. It's not for everybody. If you're not comfortable on Facebook, fine, that's fine. But like, it's not going to go away. And if you can, so when we consult with business owners and they're like, oh, Facebook's crazy, I'm not on Facebook. I'm like, but wait, let's strategize your activity on Facebook. Look at it as a networking and not just, politics and religion and all that crap.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I find that we found a huge amount of business from it because we're finding where people are.
Right.
And we're having conversations with them where they feel more comfortable. And we're not necessarily saying, hey, give me money that day. So here's when you're on my show, Hampton Roads Business Weekly, you took this picture, or Chad Sensel took this picture, you posted up.
Isn't that funny? Because I didn't even know him, and I was like, hey, you, can you please take a picture?
So this is
like, sure.
This is me playing guitar, teasing in. Love that shot. It's hilarious.
I know.
So people will then go from, they'll see something like this, or they'll see your activity, and they'll like it, and then they'll, let's talk through the scenario. So then they'll message you or DM you and say, hey, I like what you're doing. I'm looking at doing X, Y, and Z. Can we meet? Something like that?
Exactly. Yep. Or I saw that you were on the Hampton Roads show, or I saw that you were on the HR Biz Weekly show, or whatever the show is, Coastal Virginia. They'll ask me, how do I get on there? And so as an ad agency, that's the perfect case scenario for us, because not only am I on it, but I can guide people and make connections and introductions to them on how they can get exposure and that PR.
How do you qualify those people, though? So which I assume you are too, very busy, and when you spend time with people, we'd love to spend all day with people, but we know that some of them won't turn into actual customers. Do you qualify those people? Do you curate them beforehand? Do you put any kind of things in place to make sure that it's going to be worth your time?
Well, it doesn't take much time to have a conversation, even if it's just messaging back and forth. So if they want to message me back and forth on social media, if I'm available, I'll do it. If they want to set a meeting, we can either do it virtually like this, where we're on Skype if they're not in the market, or I have set office hours. So that's really good, because I know if anybody wants to meet, hey, here's my window of time every Wednesday from 9 to 1. If you want to meet with me, that's the time I'm in my office.
How long are your meetings?
Typically 30, 45 minutes. Well, before they come, if they're coming with interest of marketing and advertising services, I'll send them our one sheet. And that one sheet basically covers all, hey, look, I know you're interested in meeting with us. Let me send you this so that especially with pricing and stuff. And I feel like that also takes care of the tire kickers.
Sure.
So, but also it sets the stage, because if they come in, they've already seen our prices.
Sure.
I'm not hearing their budget and then giving them a price.
So I used to meet with everyone, and then 3 or 4 years ago, my good buddy Eric Olson of 80/20 said, why are you doing this meeting? And I was like, you know what, you're right. I need to charge for this. And so he actually introduced me to someone, and this person was like, oh, I really want to meet with you. Seems like you can really help me. And I was like, yeah, sure. Here's my hourly rate card.
Yep.
And I never heard back from them. And some people would be like, oh my God, that's so bold. And I'm like, no, I didn't waste my time. That
Right.
person never was going to pay me anyway.
Yep.
So why waste your time learning if they will or will not? So you started Germono Advertising, the Germono Advertising Company, several years ago. You can, those of you listening can find them at germono.com. Recently, though, you started something called Drop and Give Me 20, which is a podcast for those affiliated with the military. What gave you the concept to do that, and what are some lessons learned so far?
So Drop and Give Me 20 is me interviewing successful military entrepreneurs. And those are either currently active duty, so they're active duty service member that's currently in, but also has their own business, which is really unique because their job is to serve the military, not create a business.
Sure.
So I wanted to have those conversations because they have to basically come up with a team very quickly. And I wanted other people to hear that in case they get deployed or in case they, get assigned somewhere. They need to have that team development, pretty quick. So active duty, and then of course military spouses, which are me, people who are married to someone who's active duty and has to move every 2 or 3 years out of the area. And then there are veteran-owned businesses. Now, I don't do, there are so many podcasts out there, as you know, that I don't, I really just have it for military business owners. So they have to be a business owner. There are so many great people that are VPs or marketing directors, but I want to talk to the business owner because they're going to be able to share with others how they overcame those initial blocks, like filing your business in a different state than where your home of residency is. I'm going to come back to that in a second because that's something that I want to share with you because you might not know that. So the podcast came out of, I was having these really awesome conversations with other military business owners, and I'm like, you know what? Holy S, I need to share these stories. I mean, these are stories that are super unique, and because when you're in the military, it can become very frustrating. You have a lot of obstacles. So I needed to share that out so that other people were inspired and motivated. So that's where the podcast came out of. We launched in September of 2016. I don't know what the current downloads are, but last time I checked, it was like over 1,200 downloads since September. It has really helped those that are in my community of military entrepreneurship because they can hear and just get inspired. And sometimes you feel stuck, right? You're a business owner too.
And I grew up in Northern Virginia, which there's a lot of government contracts up
Right.
there, but there's not necessarily a lot of military there. Obviously, now I live in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area, and there's a ton of military. And so I don't think I understood that world until living here. And then when I got into the business world, I was like, wow, like think about the amount of money that we as a country invest in these people, and then what are we doing for them afterwards, and is entrepreneurship a thing? And so I learned this probably 6 or 7 years ago at one of our first Start Norfolks, where a gentleman by the name of Sean Evangelista, who was a current Navy SEAL at the time, was like, I got like 6 months left, and I'm sitting there by a campfire, and I literally have no freaking clue what I'm going to do afterwards. And then I saw your ad, and I was like, wow, maybe I'll start a business.
Oh, wow.
And so we actually invested in his company that went under and didn't do very well, but he now has a company called 30 Seconds Out, where he's designing military designs and putting them on t-shirts and stickers, and is doing very well. And it's really exciting to see how maybe something that we were doing was influential for him to do something big for his life. And so I love that you are doing that, because I think that support is so important. And there's I met with actually another former SEAL yesterday, and these are the best people in the world, and I love them. The conversations are amazing, and I'm just like, man, they don't know what they don't know. And by the way, a lot of them are 20 years removed from any kind of scenario like this, and so it's cool to see that you're doing that, and it's so I think we need to be doing more for them, but making sure that they can really fulfill on their lives. So you were saying there's some out-of-state.
Okay, so here's the rundown from a business person to a business person, and those that are listening or watching, however we have this out. All right, so I am formed in the state of Virginia as an S corporation. I employ folks that are not in the state of Virginia, like employees, not 1099s, contractors, true employees. So when I take state taxes out of their paycheck, I am to take state taxes out of their home of record or state of residency. So, for somebody who is working for me and they're in Illinois, their state taxes that I'm supposed to take out of their paycheck is the state of Illinois. And then where they're performing the work is where I am to take state unemployment taxes out. All right. So here's what happens. If you are a military spouse, you don't change your home of record every time you move. Because you're moving every 2 to 3 years. I mean, half the time you're like, oh, my home of record is Florida. We were assigned there. They don't have state taxes, so we just kept our residency there even though we moved. So you can do that in the military. So as an employer, I have an employee in the state of Florida working for Germono Advertising Company in the state of Florida, but her home of record is Pennsylvania because she's never changed it to Florida because she's only going to be in Florida for like another year or whatever. So when I pay her, I have to take state taxes out of Pennsylvania, state taxes out of her check, even though she's not physically in Pennsylvania because that's her home of record. And then I have to file for a state unemployment tax ID number for the state of Florida for her because that's where she's performing the work. Okay, so from a payroll perspective, right, you've got all these processes and everything. And I don't think, and what I'm coming up against is that there's no form that when you hire an employee, especially a military spouse, that asks, where is your home of record?
Right.
So we are dealing with that now. I mean, that's our thing, and we want to employ people all across the states. That's our vision of Germono Advertising Company. So I have to get it all worked out now. But it is a nightmare, and it is such a huge headache.
I find that so that's huge, right? So
yeah,
I find
so military-owned businesses, like people like myself, need to hear these things, and then not go on Facebook and go, well, what do you think? What do you think? So this is also the purpose of advocating for entrepreneurship in the military sector because we need to share these, things.
So we just did our 3rd annual State of the Startup Community Address, and in that we one of the things we talked about is this concept that everyone talks about. Entrepreneurship is awesome, but and it is. But no one really understands it, and so what can we be doing to actually pour fuel on the fire? A great example, I think, is we're tracking the wrong metrics as a country. The thing we talk about is jobs, right? And as jobs can get more profits with less employees, that means that the jobs are going to be less per place. Yet the thing that we're tracking is job growth and job creation in a lot of ways. And so if you're a company and you can make $1 million with very little overhead with a small team of 3, why would you do that instead of having a team of 10 with a lot of overhead, right? Most business owners that I know mean well and want to provide to as many people as possible, but they're going to look at their bottom line and say, I can cut out the fat. It's just like we were talking about cord cutting. If you don't have to pay your cable bill because you can get that resource somewhere else, you're not going to. So I think that as we're looking at data points, we need to make sure that these people who are creating policy and lobbying for things actually understand that we're going to see more companies hire less employees, so we need to create more companies,
right,
so that they can hire so that number can do that. And so the whole concept of 1004 is kind of based on that. It's creating 1,000 companies or helping grow 1,000 companies and get to 4 employees, because we're not going to see 4 large companies with 1,000 employees. We're going to see far more companies being created with far less employees on each, and that's just the world we're going to go into, because digital technologies are showing us that we can automate a lot more and we don't need human infrastructure the same way that we used to.
Yep. And so that happens a lot in the ad agency world. So we're technically an advertising agency, but I would say over the past 10 years, you're seeing ad agencies go from being a full service advertising agency where they handle anything and everything to boutiquing their services out. So we specialize in small business marketing and advertising services in Hampton Roads. That's a boutique niche. That's our gym. That's what we specialize in. We start from people who don't even have a business formed and help them get to, where they want to be. Your agency setups are looking completely different. There are folks that are just specializing in web design. That used to be housed under the advertising agency umbrella. So I think it's much smarter, and I think that from a cost perspective and overhead and all of that, it makes much more sense to focus on what you're really good at and stick with that, and then make the other partnerships. Like I can refer out to you when I know, hey, you really want to go see Hatch, talk to Zach, he can help you with that, and then vice versa.
It's being smarter, I think, and so, but I think those policies and the metrics have to be understood and help people so that they can get there. All right, so you guys can learn more about Germono advertising at germono.com, or Drop and Give Me 20 is the podcast. Just search that on all your normal podcast places. So I want to ask you a couple of questions about kind of how you think and the way that you live.
We should have done this while drinking champagne. Whatever happened to that idea?
You didn't bring the champagne. I'm happy to do it. It's
Next time.
We're recording. It's a Friday. It's afternoon. I mean, it's fine. How do you set a goal? This is probably the easiest one. Are you a short term, big goal?
I am a where are we going to be in 5 years, and what does it take to get to that? So I set maybe 2 or 3 large goals, and then I chunk those down into what's going to help me get into that first one, that second one, third one. I am always working 10 steps ahead. So we launched the podcast in September. In September of this year, 2017, we already have the direction that we're going in for that. So I think that that's a really important thing for business owners to remember. You can get really sucked into the present so much that you forget, crap, I got to work 3 years out, especially when you're hiring and stuff. Like, you got to come up with that stuff.
How often are you looking at that goal sheet saying, oh, I didn't hit this today?
I wish I could show you my corkboard is right here. And I actually have it up. So 2017 has a huge sticky note that has everything that we're going to do in 2017. So I plan it out, and then I look at it all year round.
What's your main goal in life? Like, do you have like an ultimate goal?
I really love to travel. My ultimate goal is to be able to, so I work to travel. That's all I want to do is just travel. I love traveling. I love going to see new places, and I'm motivated by traveling. So last year was the first year my business made enough to fund my trip to Tahiti. So that was a goal I set for myself, and I achieved it, and I was like, as soon as I get to this mark, I'm going to treat myself to Tahiti. So
it's kind of the rewarding, giving yourself a little bit, or giving yourself a reward for all the hard work that you did. How did you know that the business would survive while you being away? Well,
that's the other thing. The other goal, or the other thing that drives me, are my employees, my staff. So I ask them, I make sure that I know what they're working towards too. And if there's something that I can do to help them get there. And so, for example, we have a lot of our companies consisted of military spouses because they need a career that they can take with them wherever they go. And so I have those conversations with them like, hey, what can I do to make that easier? Or what process can we do to make it easier for you? And they really appreciate that. So that also drives me in my business. I am held accountable by my staff. I can't slack off because I have people that I'm, that are holding me accountable.
One of my favorite quotes, I don't know that I came up with this, but someone said I did.
One of my favorite quotes that I came up with.
Unknown, but also stolen by me, is work on your business, not in your business. I think that's such an important thing. Maybe I read it in a book. I have no idea. So with that being said, how do you task your day knowing that you have 3 to 5 years of goals and you want to make sure that your team is there? Like, do you get on your calendar and schedule it out? How are you tasking?
Yep. So I actually do the old school planner. These guys. Yep. I also say so I can see everything every night before I close up. Then I plan out the next day. So what meetings I have, and then there are certain days of the week that I dedicate to face-to-face meetings, and then the other days of the week I'm working on client campaigns, and then Fridays are usually my these kinds of things, what podcasts or connections.
So you're bulking your day to make sure that you're doing similar tasks together.
Yeah.
So you use pen and paper and digital technologies together?
Yes.
When you're going through something bad, how do you recover?
I had a really crappy January. I will tell you that in the 3 years that we've been in existence, January was the worst month ever. We had a lot of stuff go down, a lot of things, a lot of transition, a lot of change, and it was awful. I mean, it was my workforce, and everybody, so someone shared this with me. They were like, you've had a really good run. Maybe it was just time that you had a really crappy month, right? you've been up, 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 and going,
Yeah.
going, going. You've not had a crappy month. And I was like, well, that's true. I vented and then I got through it. Like, just complain about it and then move on,
Who'd you
right?
complain to?
Um, well, I do have a business coach.
Hmm.
So if it's about work, her. And then I have a couple close friends that are also business owners that I feel comfortable calling and being like, "Oh my God, guess what happened? You know, this owning a business stuff really sucks sometimes." So I have close friends that I can call when that's happening.
Are those close friends also business owners?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you find that you don't surround yourself with a lot of non-business owners?
No, I like to have a good mix because sometimes I need to get out of my business and remember that there's other stuff going on and
There
just
is?
enjoy.
No,
Yeah,
just kidding.
there's like people who do like yoga at night and stuff. I'm like,
Wow.
holy cow, that sounds fun.
So, I've used this word before for you. You're unique because you are in a military. You're a military spouse, and not everyone understands that. You're also an entrepreneur. So those are two unique things. How do you, when you're talking to someone that you know is neither of those?
Mm-hmm.
Are the conversations okay? Do you I know that a lot of people don't understand what I do, and I'm like, well, that's fine, but like I'm not working, but I might be working right now because I have to make sure that things are flowing through. So how do the conversations flow? Do you know like your surroundings or?
Yeah, that is an interesting thing to ask. So when I'm around non-business owners, the conversation is different. We're talking about more, different stuff. We don't have children, so that's another thing against me is I don't have what's your 2-year-old doing these days? So, so I do feel like I am a black sheep of sorts.
So no politics, no babies, no cats and dogs story.
Well, we have a dog,
Okay.
but I mean, yeah. So, I don't know, Zach. I think it really helps to balance you if you can have a good mix of everything. My friends that are around me understand me, and I only surround myself with people that get me. So if I have to explain what I'm doing and why to people, that's not someone I need to be around, right?
Sure.
Like, you know what my day is like. You're a business owner, so like you and I can talk about it, and we get it. But if you're not a business owner, then I mean, there's 100 other things that we can talk about, and I'll learn from them. I'll actually ask my friends who are not business owners behavioral habits so that I can use it for marketing and advertising.
Sure.
Right? So I'll say like, hey, how do you approach social media? Oh, I hate Facebook. I'm like, okay.
Noted.
So.
Got it. What made you cry last? I would tell you what it is for me, but I can't remember at this point.
I will tell you, last month I had a very bad situation happen, and I don't cry when I'm sad. I actually cry when I'm angry, which is really confusing because like people are like, I don't know, do you want to be held or are you like going to punch me? So I had just so much stress going on that I just sat and just cried out of frustration. But again, like when I find myself in that space, I do whatever I do and then get the hell out of it.
How
like
quickly can you get out of it though?
Oh, pretty quickly. Like once I dump out, I'm good. It takes a lot to get to that point anyway. So once I'm like a spinning top, and you just spin it really quickly. Once I fall down,
So
I can
scream
get
at the
back.
top of your lungs and then you're done.
Yeah, I'm rolling on.
Got it. Do you talk to your significant other? Or do you still talk to your significant?
No, I don't talk to
sorry,
him at all.
Sorry. I was putting two questions together. Do you still talk to your best friend from high school?
Yes,
How often?
all the time. We just went on a girls' weekend last weekend, so
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you tell your significant other, you're married, right? You're married?
yes.
Do you tell your significant other everything about your business?
No.
So I found that this is 50-50. 50% of the people tell them everything, 50% of them don't tell them. How do you decide what you do and do not tell them?
Bless his heart. He doesn't understand what the hell I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And he'll say that. He'll say, I don't know what you do on a day-to-day basis. Because he's in the military and he's institutionalized, he's been in forever, he doesn't understand what, like, you can be creative. You can be, because his job is to do this task.
Yeah.
And so that's why I don't share all the ins and outs, but that's also why I have entrepreneur friends that I can call and be like, hey, I'm going through this. How do you do that? I do, share a lot of wins and successes and struggles with him, but on the day-to-day stuff like taxes, he's like,
Right. Gotcha. Couple more questions. Do you pay yourself on a regular basis?
Yes. Yes.
How did you decide to start paying yourself? Did you do it immediately? Did you have to hit a certain number?
I was in the black the fourth month in, and that was something that I wanted to do very early on, even if it's $100, right? Like I needed to do that because I equate that with feeling like I'm accomplishing something. So I paid myself in the first year, and I still continue to pay myself. Now, there are times where my employees are making more than me in a paycheck, but that's fine too.
Do you pay your okay? So you're taking more of a draw than a regular, quote unquote employee style, or are you at this point making the same transaction every 14 or so days?
So I have a salary. Sometimes if we're having a really light month, I will opt to not pay myself that pay period, but that doesn't happen very often. I mean, that's just if we're having a really crazy,
We all have them. I totally get it. How do you spend your money?
Traveling.
Traveling. Do you save a lot of the money to then travel?
Yeah.
Okay. What is on your bucket list? So you say you want to spend your money on traveling. Like, do you have like a crazy place that you want to go? Maybe the Northern Lights or something?
No, I am actually in the process of planning a trip with my mom, and she's not traveled to all the places that I have. So I think we're looking at like either Turks and Caicos or St. Thomas. That's kind of on my bucket list short term. And then I don't really have one for long term yet. Every year on New Year's Eve, there's a group of us that do travel somewhere. So we haven't picked that place yet. So
what about adventurous on the bucket list? Jump out of a plane.
I've done that.
Oh yeah, that's boring.
No big deal.
Anything that's like super unobtainable. That's like there. So for me, it's own an amusement park.
Oh my god, that's so fun! Oh my god, why is that unattainable?
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and
I'd love to have one for a business. I'd love to have the like Google office, like where you have like super fun stuff. That's probably not ever going to happen, but it's a really cool thought. Like I want to have like a ball pit with a slide and all that crap. Like I just think it'd be really fun.
Just buy a McDonald's franchise and you can do that.
Yeah.
So with your staff, knowing that the Google kind of Plex concept is something that you like, how do you, and you want to make sure, I think you said something like, what my staff is working for really means a lot to me. How do you make sure they can hit that, your business can succeed, and at the same time, they're not, goofing off?
Yeah. So that's been a learning curve for me. I learned that I don't like to manage. I like to lead, but I don't like to be a manager. So,
and they're very different things.
They are very different things. I like to be the one who's inspiring people. I don't like to be the one who's reprimanding people and, that stuff. But you need to be both in a sense when you're a business owner, because you can't have a bunch of people fooling around on their workday, wasting your money. So what we do is we have our weekly meetings, like, we do them virtually.
Yep. How long is that meeting?
It's an hour.
Okay.
And we always start with, everybody has to go around the room and start with something positive that's happened to them in the past week. So we start with that first.
Business or
anything. Most of the time it's personal, like, my husband came home from being deployed or whatever.
Everyone on your staff is military affiliation?
Most of them.
Good.
Yeah, most of them are. And then, so we start with that, and then we go around and talk about what we're working on. And then at the end, I ask, okay, what do you need from me? Like, what are you waiting on from me? What can I give you? What can I equip you with? So it really gives everybody the opportunity to go, here's what I'm working on and stuff. But so that keeps them accountable, too, because everybody's hearing what each other person's working on. And it also creates that team building, because someone can say, I'm struggling with this. And then the other person can go, oh, well, did you try that? And so sometimes I just sit back and let them.
Are you talking with them throughout the week then, too? Or are you trying not?
Yeah. So outside of that meeting, we have an inner office. So Zoom has a chat function. So we are all logged in when we're working. So
Got
during work hours, you're logged in, and at any time you can, IM each other. Um, yeah, I mean, you have to find the right person that's gonna fit that mold. Not virtual work isn't for everybody.
Have you ever had to fire someone?
No, thank God. No, I haven't had to. Oh my God, that makes me. Ugh.
Well, you don't want to be a manager, so I
Right.
completely understand that. Lindsey Germono of Germono Advertising Company. You can find her and her company at germono.com. Also, check out the Drop and Give Me 20 podcast. Do you start that with doing 20 push ups every time? This is like the hardest question that you'll have for this whole thing.
So I thought it was really cool to do Drop and Give Me 20 because each episode is 20 minutes and it goes with the military theme. But so there's a member of our team. His name is Jay, and he's a Marine vet. And he said, "You know what that means, right?" And I was like, "Wait, yeah, no, maybe I don't. I don't know. What?" He was like, when people would drop their weapon, like it makes a really loud noise, typically if it's on like a hard surface.
Right.
And so everybody hears it, in the lineup or whatever that they're doing. So once that happens and that noise is heard, that person is to be on the ground doing 20 push-ups like immediately. And so I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
It's a catchy name, though.
It's catchy, and it goes really well with, us being military oriented. Each episode's 20 minutes, so you can get in and get out and go about your day.
Great. Well, check it out. Drop and Give Me 20, the podcast that Lindsey has been putting on. Germono Advertising Company, germono.com. Lindsey, thank you so much for being with us today on the 1004 show.
Thank you, Zach.